Enough is enough. Protesters gather in front of Lee Mall in Columbus. More on this story coming up.
WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Cash Matlock. Columbus residents are still reacting to the news of the Attorney General dropping a manslaughter charge against a former Columbus police officer. A crowd of community leaders, supporters, and friends of Ricky Ball held a peaceful protest at Lee Mall this morning. The Attorney General recently told WCBI it would not pursue charges against Canyon Boykin. Boykin shot Ball during the course of a traffic stop in 2015. Boykin was indicted by a grand jury in the case. Now, some local residents wanted their voice and displeasure heard about the decision.
Well, we're having the protest today. We're getting together because of the madness that's been going on in the city of Columbus.
They just want their voices heard. I want my voice heard. We all want our voices heard. And it's time for people to finally listen to our voices.
There were no reported incidents at the protest. To see more about the case, go to WCBI.com. Minnesota's governor has fully mobilized his state's National Guard after another night of violent protests over the death of George Floyd. Protests erupted across the country for the fourth night after the Minneapolis man died during a police encounter. Michael George has the latest from Minneapolis.
Volunteers gathered in Minneapolis today to clean up after another night of fires and looting during a protest for George Floyd.
We're going to have to work so hard and together, everyone, to clean this up. I mean, this is just, who knows, this is not even probably the end.
Protesters ignored an 8 p.m. curfew, setting buildings and cars on fire, prompting Governor Tim Walz to activate the state's full National Guard for the first time in Minnesota history.
Last night is a mockery of pretending this is about George Floyd's death.
As the National Guard rolled into Minneapolis, President Trump urged Minnesota officials to get tougher with protesters.
They've got to be tough. They've got to be smart. We have our military ready, willing, and able if they ever want to call our military. But we can have troops on the ground very quickly.
Talking with people on this block, a lot of folks told us they support the protests, but seeing this destruction of their community breaks their heart.
Everything is gone. If it's not broken or burnt down, it's tagged with graffiti.
Anger over Floyd's death ignited protests in dozens of U.S. cities. Protesters in Atlanta set fires and smashed the windows of the CNN Center, set fire to police vehicles in New York, and police held back an angry mob at the White House. People poured into the streets again today from Philadelphia to Los Angeles.
I need to be out here. I feel like, it's time to take a stand. United we stand, divided we fall.
Officials across the country are bracing for another night of possible violence following a national call for protests. Michael George, CBS News, Minneapolis.
The Tupelo mayor's office took to social media today to announce plans for a peaceful protest. The assembly will provide an outlet for citizens to, quote, speak out against the killing of George Floyd, end quote. The protest began at 5 this afternoon and will go on until 8 p.m. at Fair Park. The city says no activity outside of Fair Park has been permitted. They say there will be a heavy police presence to keep the peace and make sure there is no violence. The mayor's office says citizens have a constitutional right to peacefully assemble and be heard, but the, quote, better course of action during COVID-19 is to stay home and let your voice be heard at the ballot box, end quote. Our reporter Tyler Hull is at the rally right now. He's going to have more information for us coming up on WCBI News at 10 o'clock. Well, protests are popping up all across the state. A large group gathered Friday at the state capitol to show support for George Floyd's family and denounce police violence. Courtney Ann Jackson has the story.
No justice, no peace, no racist police.
What happened to George Floyd in Minneapolis transcends any headlines for many of those who rallied outside the Mississippi State Capitol.
Actually fighting for our lives every single day. I have to get up and make sure what I put on. I have to know, is it too dark, is it too bright? I have to always look back. The other night I had to hold my girlfriend and she cried because she was scared of me leaving the house because of what's going on.
Michael Barber says he can only hope his children won't have those same experiences. But that's another reason he didn't want to sit on the sidelines and not speak out against racism and police brutality.
I'm lucky I turned 22. In the black community, it is a blessing to turn 21. When we reach 25, that is a milestone. Not graduating college, not getting your license or anything. Turning an age is a milestone. It's not even really a tradition in our culture.
We the people demand the death of racism and the rebirth of liberty.
Others echoed the idea that Mississippi's history makes peaceful protests like this imperative.
Racism has been a big part of Mississippi's history for a very long time. I think it was very important for us to be here today and to put Mississippi into the fight for justice and liberty for its people.
The group did march through downtown Jackson after leaving the state capitol. When asked about the protest, Governor Tate Reeves said this.
I fully support everyone's individual right to protest their government, to protest government decisions, as long as they do so in a peaceful manner. That is a constitutional right that is one of the very foundations of our country.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
In Petal, Mississippi, protesters call for the resignation of Mayor Hal Marks. The protest comes after the mayor posted controversial statements about the death of George Floyd on his social media pages. He says his remarks were misconstrued as racist and that he wanted people to see all of the facts before judging police. Last night, Marks resisted calls to resign by the Board of Aldermen. Jesse Finver of CBS affiliate WJTV has more.
The protests here at Petal City Hall were well organized and peaceful, but the protesters' anger and frustration, that was palpable. The protest today in Petal was peaceful, yet sharp with anger and frustration.
Mayor Marks' comments were hurtful to a lot of people.
The comments he's referring to were social media posts made by the mayor earlier in the week, saying in part, quote, "If you can talk, you can breathe." Today, protesters shared their thoughts on the mayor's remarks.
You're in a certain position. You can't make certain comments. If you represent the people, you have to represent all the people. My biggest thing was that his comment was voluntary. Nobody asked him for his opinion. So for you to volunteer how you really feel, you know, that bothered me.
Justice. I need him to resign, and I think everybody else wants him to resign.
His remarks are unacceptable in this time, or really in any time.
And this morning we reached out to Mayor Hal Marks and asked for a comment on the protests and if he wanted to clarify his statements once again, and he said no comment.
Hopefully you're able to get outside and enjoy some of that nice weather today. Temperatures got up into the 80s once again, and we're still there right now, as a matter of fact. 83 right now here in the Friendly City, 82 up north in Tupelo. A few folks up to the extreme northern portion of the area, already down into the upper 70s. Generally, though, most of us are in the 80s, which you might think is a little bit warm as you're stepping outside, but take a look at this. The dew point values are actually in the 50s, so the humidity is a lot lower. It's not as muggy and sticky as you walk outside. So it's actually really comfortable, and we've got a really nice northerly breeze out there. Typically this time of year, we've got dew points in the 70s. That's what makes it muggy. Right now, dew points are in the mid and upper 50s for a lot of us. Overnight tonight, temperatures, as a matter of fact, will fall down into the 50s. 58 for the low under a mostly clear sky. And looking ahead to the next 3 days, we will stay sunny for the most part. We are going to be talking about the chance for some showers starting to develop into next week. Temperatures and humidity also going to be on the rise. I've got your full forecast coming up in just a bit. Cash.
All right, thank you, Trevor. An apparent workplace accident claimed the life of a man in Lowndes County. The incident happened about 2 o'clock at T&T Truck Repair just off Highway 45 North. That was 2 o'clock on Friday, by the way. And Lowndes County Coroner Greg Merchant says this worker was under a truck when the jack broke and crushed him. He was apparently working on a large propane truck. The man's name will not be released until his family is notified. Well, the Mississippi Department of Health reports 439 new cases of COVID-19 with 13 new deaths. There are currently 137 active outbreaks within the state. 430 people are hospitalized with coronavirus. And there have been more than 1,500 total cases in Mississippi since March 11th, with 723 total deaths. And more than 9,400 people are presumed to have recovered from the virus. And the coronavirus hotline is the best way to get your questions about COVID-19 answered. You can call 877-978-6453 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Well, the death toll from the coronavirus has topped 102,000 in this country. There have been more than 1.7 million known cases in the U.S. We've learned that some popular Florida tourist destinations, such as Universal Orlando, plan to start reopening its hotels as soon as Tuesday. At the same time, the economy witnessed a nearly 14% drop in consumer spending last month. Tom Hansen has more from New York.
New York's reopening is not without limits. In select upstate regions, offices and hair salons will reopen, but
it's not just open the doors and everybody has a party. It's 50% occupancy in office buildings.
Governor Andrew Cuomo will also let business owners deny entry to anyone not wearing a mask.
That store owner has a right to protect themselves.
Still shut down, New York City is expected to start the first phase of reopening next week.
We're going to be providing face coverings for free for all businesses that need them.
The city's 27,000 restaurants, though, will stay closed. Angelina Malerba owns Angelina's Ristorante.
Give us a little something to start with. You don't give us anything. We don't know June, July, August, when.
With cases on the rise in Los Angeles, barbershops, hair salons, and restaurants can now do business. In Northern California, where the impact of the virus was significantly lower, graduations along with mall shopping are taking place in parking lots.
Also, it's good if you do want your things right away, same day or the next day, so you don't have to wait for it to be shipped.
Even the Grand Canyon opened up to sightseers on its popular South Rim. At the White House, Coronavirus Task Force Coordinator Dr. Deborah Birx touted Progress Friday to business leaders.
New hospitalizations are down month over month by 50%. Mortality, the fatalities that we all grieve, are down significantly week over week.
Though in real numbers, there were more than 139,817 new confirmed cases and 6,000 new deaths this week. And 24 states reported increases in their average new COVID-19 cases compared to 2 weeks ago. Alabama had more than 5,000 new positive cases in the 14-day period ending Thursday. And meat processors continue to report bad news. A Tyson pork plant in Iowa became the latest to halt operations. More than 500 of its 2,500 workers tested positive.
They pretty much feel that this is a death walk into a facility, that they may get the virus, they may die, they may bring it home with them.
As coronavirus numbers continue to climb, locals are doing what they can to help make face coverings more accessible. Find out how after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. If you need face coverings and you live in Montgomery County, today was your day to get them. Community members, the fire department, even the mayor's grandchildren were out lending a helping hand to those in need and handing out free masks. As the number of cases of COVID-19 rise, the state is helping combat the virus.
With the assistance of the state of Mississippi and MEMA, we've gotten 6,000 face masks and we're giving them out.
If you do need any, feel free. If you didn't make it today, feel free to call me at 662-283-4105 and leave a message on the answering machine, and I will call you back and we'll schedule a time to be able to give you some more masks.
For more information, of course, you can visit our website, WCBI.com. Well, as you know, masks have become a necessity to protect ourselves from others from spreading germs, and one woman has made more than 3,000 masks and given them out free of charge.
They had not started talking about the mask and how important it was to wear the mask, but they were talking about how this virus was being transferred from one to the other. So I knew then that we needed something to cover ourselves with.
Gray came up with the idea to make masks, and when her friend recently passed away, the Southern Foundation for Homeless Children will be holding a food drive by this Wednesday in Starkville and will be donating masks to anyone who needs one.
All is quiet weather-wise right now, but that could be changing here in the next few days. I've got your full First Alert forecast coming up right after this. Stay with us.
WCBI First Alert AccuWeather Forecast with meteorologist Trevor Burchett.
Picture perfect weather for that Saturday. Hopefully you were able to get outside and enjoy it. I spent some time outside before I came into work. The humidity being low, the light northerly breeze just makes it perfect. Perfect day for a run, to get in the pool, to go to the lake, whatever you wanted to do. Hopefully you were able to get outside and get some fresh air. We do have some changes, though, that are on the way. First of all, the sunshine's going to stick around here for the next couple of days, and that humidity is really going to stay low, going to help to feel a lot more comfortable. But here's our changes. We've got warmer temperatures on the way, and we're also going to have to introduce some rain chances here as we get into the end of the week. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit, but first let's take a live look outside. From here atop WCBI, looking off to the north. Clear skies out there right now, just a few cumulus clouds trying to pop up, generally mostly sunny. And we're going to stay mostly clear overnight tonight. Really, everybody reporting in with sunshine right now. 81 in Oxford and Starkville, 83 in West Point and here at the Air Force Base, 82 in Tupelo. Just a few clouds out west along I-55 in Winona. Notice, though, the heat index values are pretty close to the actual temperature. That's because the humidity is lower, and we're basically feeling very comfortable as you're stepping outside. Now, here's something a little cool for you. You might have seen that SpaceX rocket launch earlier today. A lot of times we use the satellite picture to show you where the clouds are and where there's moisture. Interestingly enough, take a look at this. The satellite actually caught the rocket launch. There you see it right there, that little orange blip. So Cape Canaveral there at the bottom of your screen, as it launched up to the north, you see that one little blip right there at 2:25, just a couple of minutes after it launched from the launch pad. Really interesting to see. Sometimes the radars and the satellites can pick up some things they're not supposed to, but in this case, it was actually something fairly interesting. Overnight tonight, temperature's going to fall down into the low 60s. With that light wind continuing, I think we'll actually be into the mid and upper 50s by the time you wake up, staying mostly clear with just a few light passing clouds here through the evening and overnight hours. Tomorrow, basically copy and paste where we were today. We're going to see plenty of sunshine, temperatures getting up into the mid and upper 80s for a lot of us, 84 for us here in Columbus. The humidity still staying low, so if you didn't get it outside today, tomorrow going to be another really nice day to do it. We'll be a little cooler off to the north. Still fairly comfortable, though. 80 for Corinth, Iuka, and in Ripley. 81 in Boonville. 83 for us in Tupelo. And for our friends in West Alabama, really a similar story. We're looking at highs in the low to mid 80s under a mostly sunny and comfortable day for us. Now, we are dealing with the comfortable temperatures right now. That's because the dew points are low. Watch what happens, though, as we put this into future. All the moisture is going to come in off the Gulf Coast, and that's going to increase our dew points into the low 70s by next week. That means, unfortunately, that familiar humidity of the summertime is going to make a return. Take a look at our comfort index. We're starting out comfortable tomorrow and Monday, and then we skyrocket up to more humid weather as we get toward the beginning and middle portion of the week. That extra humidity, extra moisture, also going to lead to some chances for isolated showers, maybe a pop-up storm or two Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Generally, though, not everybody going to see rain, just an isolated chance for a pop-up storm in a spot or two. Highs getting into the low 90s by the middle and end of the week. Overnight lows, for the most part, in the 60s and 70s. So overall, Cash, not a horrible 7-day forecast, but there could be some rain in there by the end of the week.
I gotcha. And earlier, Trevor, me and you were watching the SpaceX launch, and you really couldn't ask for more perfect weather.
You couldn't. You know, they had to ditch it back on Wednesday.
Exactly.
And there were actually storms 20 miles away, which is just over the limit of where they can launch. So they got it in just in the nick of time, but really cool to see. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely go back.
For sure, for sure. All right, thanks, Trevor. Well, speaking of that, history in the making, we're going to have more on SpaceX rocket launch when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone. NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket lifted off this afternoon, beginning a new era of commercial spaceflight from the historic launch pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The mission is the first from the U.S. with NASA astronauts in nearly a decade. CBS News correspondent Skylar Henry is at the Kennedy Space Center.
Ignition, liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed.
The manned SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket launch Saturday from the Kennedy Space Center opened a new frontier in space travel. It's the first time a private company, Elon Musk's SpaceX, has launched astronauts in a commercially built spacecraft. Two veteran astronauts, Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, are on a 19-hour trip to the International Space Station.
It is a real treat to watch a U.S. rocket take off from U.S. soil with NASA astronauts on board. It's a great feeling.
Weather conditions cleared as liftoff approached during the afternoon. A first attempt was scrubbed Wednesday due to threat of lightning. President Trump and Vice President Pence view the departure from the Space Center in Florida.
You feel the shake over here. It's pretty amazing. A beautiful sight, a beautiful ship, too.
Spectators lined up in nearby towns for front and center views.
NASA had asked people to watch from home because of the coronavirus pandemic.
The space agency retired the space shuttles in 2011. Since then, it has paid the Russian space agency to ferry U.S. astronauts to and from the International Space Station. Skylar Henry, CBS News at the Kennedy Space Center.
The astronauts are expected to dock at the space station at 10:27 Eastern Time on Sunday. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Trevor will have a final look at weather.
Another sunny day tomorrow, lower humidity, highs in the mid-80s. We're going to stay dry here for the next several days. Temperatures on the increase, though. That also means more humidity coming back by the middle portion of the week. We're going to reintroduce some chances for an isolated pop-up storm or two Wednesday through the end of the week, with highs staying in the low to mid-90s.
Looks like perfect weather for my birthday, Trevor.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you back here at 10 o'clock.